Hello everybody and welcome to the Showcast, a series of candid conversations from the world of film brought to you by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. And on this episode of the Showcast, the latest in a long line of episodes we recorded at the 2024 AVP Summit in Reggio Calabria, Italy, I sit down for a conversation with Christina Lee Storm, an audiovisual producer with over 20 years of experience of working on major projects and someone who has truly been driving strategic and creative development of emerging technologies for series, film, and multi-platform storytelling, including as founder and CEO of her company, XR. Well, in this conversation, we talk about some of the biggest innovations within the audiovisual storytelling realm, touching on things ranging from, immersive experiences to artificial intelligence and much more, things that are becoming increasingly important within the industry, but that are also unfamiliar to many and to some, even a little bit scary. Well, Lee Storm shares with us her thoughts on the current environment within the industry in a time that she sees as being characterized by what she defines as the entertainment umbrella, and we get into that as well. So lots to talk about, and the best thing to do is to get to it. Fire up on Audio Teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Christina, welcome to the Showcast.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to meet you in lovely Reggio Calabria.
Yes.
It's
really gorgeous. It's beautiful. The weather's been amazing.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's not too hot. I thought it might be really, really warm.
Yeah, you kind of get worried about that, right? South of Italy, you always hear about crazy temperatures, but yeah, we've been lucky,
Yeah.
And what sights, what views. I was just talking before the interview. The sea is gorgeous, has such a deep, profound blue, can really get lost in there. But the occasion is the AVP Summit. We'll be discussing some of the major driving topics of this summit that is taking place these few days. And I'm looking forward to talking with you about XR, your company, which fascinating stuff. And I'm looking forward to it as well, because maybe it's an aspect that I'm not as familiar with. I'm looking forward to it. But one of the things that I like to do to break the proverbial ice is to get to know the person I'm speaking with a little more and just ask a very simple question. Or when it comes to storytelling, I'd like to focus on that. Is there a moment early in life when you remember awakening to the power of storytelling and something that maybe informs you later in life to kind of progressively become professionally involved in it as well?
Absolutely. I distinctly remember I was probably in middle school. So that's maybe 12, 13. And I've told the story before, but I love going to the movies. I would go probably once a week. And I remember sitting there in the darkened theater and just watch these films, and I loved the character pieces, like the films that dug into, a character in a way that was distinct or funny, or somehow I could relate to it. And what's interesting about that is because I'm actually the first generation born in America. My parents immigrated over from Hong Kong. What was interesting sitting there in the darkened theater was that despite the fact that I'm watching cinema, this is in the 80s, the person doesn't look like me, but the universal story about an individual going through something or trying to overcome something or feeling awkward. I love John Hughes. John Hughes is a big influence on me, and I just really connected. I connected with those characters, and I feel that was very important to me to know that these stories could resonate in a way beyond just, what you experience in life, but, take that theater moment and then go and then realize, wow, there's something, if I feel this way, other people must feel a real deep connection when you experience cinema.
Yeah, the universal power of storytelling, the universal power of cinema. Breakfast Club, would it have been up there?
Yeah, Breakfast Club. I mean, there's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink. 16 Candles was interestingly, because there's like some sort of weird, awkward
kind of
racism.
I don't even remember that film all that much.
Yeah,
I guess it didn't really
really early. it's different times now. Now we have shows like Beef and a lot of different media, cinema series that depict people much more accurately than maybe from the 80s.
And you know what else I also really liked about John Hughes movies? The music. Some really classic songs in John Hughes.
Simple Minds. Spandau Ballet, I think.
All of that. Yeah. It's like he invented 80s music when you figure.
Exactly.
OMD.
Yeah. OMD.
Yes. Oh, big fan. Yeah. So that's the storytelling side. But then when it comes to your work, there is also a very strong aspect of the technology that is involved. And so were you always into that as well?
So what's funny about that is, this young 12, 13-year-old going to the movies, I kind of consider myself a black sheep in the family because my parents actually were involved in the aerospace industry. So they were involved in computer science, physics, and all of that. But I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in entertainment. Cut to the world sort of circles back around. Everything kind of becomes somewhat circular in that my background in entertainment was I had worked at an agency, I'd done creative development, I was an independent film producer and worked in production. And from there, I had an opportunity to work at a visual effects studio. It was Rhythm and Hue Studio, and one of the most prominent studios. It was there that I call it VFX was the gateway drug for me to get into computer graphics, computer science, innovation, technology, because every film that the studio would work on, there would be a lot of what we would call R&D to try and figure out how are we going to make this work. If the VFX work is like with water, how are we going to do the water? I remember significantly being in a room where the head of visual effects, like supervisors, was like, we need to start investing in water. Like, how do we make water? And the studio for a long time had done a lot of talking animals and had really nailed down the animals, like CG animals. And so you see that combination of CG animals, water, and then you have Life of Pi. And at that time, the company amazingly did this phenomenal work. I think it still holds up today, 10 plus years later. But at the same time, because of the way the visual effects industry was set up and how it worked with the studios, it actually went into bankruptcy. And so I did a documentary. It's on YouTube. It's called Life After Pi. And it's really about sort of the cautionary tale of the industry and how that really impacted. There was a lot of visual effects studios that were not a business, but it was working with these tremendously talented artists that just problem solvers. And I was blown away. And I think that sparked always this curiosity of like, when you see there's a problem, there's always something creative about the solution. And I think I was really pushed to learn this new language in a sense and not be afraid of it. And maybe deep seated in my, family background, I was really a computer scientist, maybe.
You brought up something else that might be a rewarding aspect of what you do is when there's a problem, you want to find a solution, right? So maybe that finding the solution is kind of part of what drives you to do what you do.
Yeah, I think finding the solution.
Solving problems.
Yes, exactly. Solving problems, finding solutions. And I think early on in my career, I was a bit of a futurist. I always would think about what is the future going to look like? How do we prepare for the future? Is there another pathway besides just the general path of, can there be a different way of doing it?
So what is the driving vision behind Asher? And when was it born? When did you conceive of just this company?
Yeah. So Asher XR was birthed actually after I had left DreamWorks Animation. So from Rhythm and Hue Studios, I ended up producing different feature films. And then I went back to then the company went bankrupt. And then I ended up working actually at this, one company, Act One. And it was doing a lot of training for screenwriters, directors, producers. And then from there, I landed at DreamWorks Animation as a production executive at the start. But the last couple of years, I ended up as vice president, where I led the advanced creative technology team. And it was really there that we had the opportunity to use what we would call tools that weren't proprietary to the studio. So we got to work with real-time rendering, Unreal, Unity. My team ran the motion capture stage, facial capture. We kind of got to test out. And this was sort of at the real height of like VR. A lot of people were leaning into VR and trying to figure out what's the new storytelling in VR? How do we tell stories in VR? And from there, I really got the bug of like this emerging technologies and how they apply to immersive creative content. From there, that's where Azure XR was birthed. And it was an opportunity to take that knowledge base and to take all of my experience and begin to use that and help people and help companies. But I didn't get too much of a start because I ended up going back into producing a feature. And then shortly after that, I started working at Netflix in virtual production.
Right. But that immersive side of things remains kind of like something that you very much pursue, right? I mean, it's becoming increasingly part of even film festival programs, for example.
Yeah. I was just at Cannes for Cannes Next. I gave a keynote at Cannes Next and spoke on a couple different panels. But I think, immersive will always continue to grow because we know that the Gen Z audience is very much wanting to be much more participatory in their viewing habits, whether that is through different means of like gaming to like interactive content to even, you can look at social media as an interactive play. And there's a lot of things that kind of allow people to sort of engage. And so what's interesting is technology is allowing for the immersive storytelling to sort of continue to grow, even with Apple's sort of a commitment and delve into Apple Vision Pro, it's truly that immersive investment. And so that's also very exciting.
Yes. And you speak of it as it being exciting. Some others may not agree. In fact, some are maybe scared of it, a little bit. Do you feel also that kind of resistance from, let's say, the audiovisual industry at large? For example, here at AVP, at the AVP Summit, there's people from all over the world. What do you feel are sort of, the reactions to all of this overwhelming, even technological advancements, innovations? Some may say disruptions, but also others may think of them as new opportunities for finding new avenues for storytelling.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I would say, actually after leaving Netflix, I left Netflix last year. I had some time to really think about like, what is the future of entertainment? What does it look like? What is our future audience going to want to be a part of? And some of what we've sort of framed up is this idea that, it's either this or that. It's like we either do A or we do B. And I think the future audience doesn't look at it that way. They look at it much more intertwined and connected. And so that was when I kind of kicked off this idea of the entertainment umbrella. The entertainment umbrella, underneath the umbrella, there's everything. You get to choose from a lot of different things: film, series, games, sports, user-generated content, music, podcasts, live. And so the umbrella is actually widened. Maybe not even a lot of new things have happened, but it's widened in this area that your audience actually has a chance to do all of these different things. So it's not to say that, everything's like, linear content is decreasing. It's still very much important to, I would say, maybe older generations like Gen X really love linear, lay back, sit back type of content. But you have to admit that there's other types of entertainment that are very attractive to a younger audience. And so that's the concept of this entertainment umbrella. And so coming into how that relates, how people consume their entertainment, consume their content, and how it is made is sort of that cross section. And so I think today, a lot of the conversations about technology that people are concerned about we touched on AI. Obviously, the panel I was on was about digital creation as well as virtual production. But I think a lot of it tends to be this, if you aren't aware of what is really being discussed, then you kind of fill that unawareness with a void of like, oh, like fear, you know? And so I think that's part of what's important about like an AVP Summit is that you're really talking through, here's some things to think about. Here are some interesting ideas. And I think that most people are concerned about, for example, AI taking over, let's say, fundamentally their job. But really where we're at today with it is it can be a tool and it can be used. How quickly it advances to certain things is to be determined. I think we're seeing a lot of like R&D happening, but the crux of it is that you really have creatives, directors, writers, even digital artists that still have to actually do the work. And they're leveraging these tools in a way that are just tools.
Yeah. Creativity, you can't replace it really, at least not at the moment with AI, you know, but it can definitely serve as a tool. I really like what you said. You know, it sounds like what you are kind of saying is that kind of the evolution of these art forms and even the audiovisual industry per se kind of goes through maybe changing our perspective of things just having to fit within a box, you know, be more open-minded, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be a good idea for other aspects of our lives, I think, and cultures and things like that. But what are some of the projects that you're working on at the moment that you could share with us?
Asher XR, and then I also have another company that I co-founded called Playbook. And so both of the companies really are designed to help storytellers, you know, folks who work in the industry that might not understand how to best use emerging technologies, how to apply them. What we do, you know, today I am consulting basically to really bridge the gap between emerging technologies and storytelling. And that can come out in a lot of different ways. Everything from virtual production, working in the sector of virtual production, working in the sector of real-time animation, working in the sector of AI, working in the sector of like anything else it's new. And so it's really bridging that gap on both ends. So for storytellers that not quite sure how best to like really figure out their project, it could be a break down the script, really figure out what tool might be best for whatever the parameter is. It's on the other side too, is we work with technology companies that how do we help them really connect with the creative? So we kind of are in the middle, the bridge in the middle between both.
Wow. So there's a lot in it, right? There's a lot.
The intersection between technology and storytelling.
Wow. There's so much happening right now. And it seems like you pretty much got it covered, you know? You're kind of like, you know, you're helping a lot of people understand a lot of these things, which I think is very useful. Cause like I feel like people are kind of frightened some people are frightened of these things because they don't understand them. So it's very valuable to just get an idea of what these new technologies, these innovations, new processes, techniques are all about and how they can help us. Fascinating conversation, Christina. Thank you very much for talking with us. I've made it a point though to ask another question. You know, we talked about John Hughes films earlier, but you know, I wondered whether nowadays, you know, some days we're down and now, you know, life can just, you know, be tough and, maybe we're anxious, stressed, whatever. And our best way to kind of deal with life in those cases, you know, for most of us anyways, is to just put something on that is just comfort viewing, you know, that you just like to escape into.
Comfort viewing.
So we talked about John Hughes, but nowadays, what is it that you're escaping into? You know, it can be anything. It can be fiction, nonfiction, sports, whatever, you know.
I watch a lot. If I'm not reading all of the different companies that are delving into AI, or if I'm not digging into how do I use certain tools, then I'm sitting there on the couch watching a lot of different content. So I watch everything from sports with my family. So it will be American football or American basketball. And then I also love binging series. So if there's something that people are really talking about, I'll do that. And then when it's, you know, maybe it's just old roots. It's like when it's time to just do something like fun. There's some great romantic comedies out. I love those. That's the genre that I love and I plan to keep producing in. And, So yeah, pretty much watch everything. Some stuff, you have to prepare your mind for, like, oh, this is going to be really like a deep,
challenging.
hard, yeah.
In every way possible.
Yeah. I'll set that aside for when I'm ready for it. But yeah. There's so much great entertainment out there.
Yeah.
And then when I can also, it's like, we have the Apple Vision Pro at home, it's like, okay, yes, we also need to do that. So
test things out.
Yeah. There's a lot of really neat things. So, there's never a dull moment.
God,
it's a very exciting time. So
yeah, it is, isn't it? It is. There's so many different ways for us to consume content as well as produce content. We haven't talked about that, but that's just as exciting, right?
That's right. There is.
Yeah.
So I think it's, it really comes down to staying curious, being courageous, and just, really open-minded about things and looking at, it's a little bit scary. It's been very scary for a lot of people who have either been out of work or they, they're tied to production. But I think it's really an opportunity to sort of grow and sort of engage in things that might not be familiar and really take a risk. So
learn new skills, think outside the box, like we said earlier, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Awesome. Well, Christina, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great chatting with you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Great chatting with you as well.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation from the Audiovisual Producers Summit of 2024 taking place in Reggio Calabria, Italy. And let me take this opportunity to remind you that there's plenty more great podcast conversations with film industry professionals, audiovisual professionals, and creatives from all over the world that you can discover over at filmverdictnetwork.com, whether you work in the audiovisual industry or would like to find out more about it. And to make sure you never miss an episode, you can look for us by entering TFV Network and following us wherever you get your podcasts from. Till the next time, from The Film Verdict, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.